Welcome back to Operation Evil. I don't know if you can believe this or not, but we are on episode 50. 50. Yeah.
50 and thrifty.
Yes. And we have started like this new, I'm just going to call it like a mini series to throw in the mix of things, like we do with the Reddit ones. And it's called Killer Reviews. And this is when we are going to discuss television shows or movies, things that are evil, true crime related, and just have a chat with you guys. Like we're all in the same room. This week, we're going to cover the Hulu series called Candy. But before we start that, I'm going to introduce myself as always. I'm your host, Nyoka. Rachel takes 5 minutes.
You already said my name. I don't have to say it again.
That's good. Anyway. So the series was 5 episodes. So it was an easy binge watching series. At least I thought. I watched it in 2 days.
Same.
Yeah. And it really had me hooked from like the very beginning. Because in the very beginning, you see Candy and she's talking about, she's telling a story about a tree, and the tree's growing and gets strong, and then it becomes cut down and all these other things. It's just wild. But anyway, that's how it starts. And you're like, okay, in a weird way, I'm already invested in this. It takes place in the 80s, right? Early 80s.
Yeah. Well, like 78, 79.
Yes. Yep, you're right. And the hairstyle and everything in the houses, everything reflects that time period. I swear, the one couch that everybody had in their house, of course, is in there. Yeah, yes, that too. It was fantastic. Lots of memories there.
All the big glasses and the hairstyle. Well, like you said, hairstyle, but the men's hairstyle is what, like Candy's husband, is what stood out for me.
Yes, I couldn't stop staring at Candy's hair too. Hers was like really short, but it was like permed, like a pretty tight perm. And it wasn't like styled out. You know how some people get a perm for like the volume and then they curl it or smooth it out or whatever when they fix it. No, she wore it straight up like how the perm naturally looks. It was wild. And the big old glasses, like I think of Sally Jesse Raphael, although they weren't red glasses, but you get my point. She's a tiny woman. Anyways, we'll put pictures up of the real person and the actress, Jessica Biel. And they did a really good job with making her look like the real person. But I just kind of want to paint a picture for you. So this is a time in Lucas, Texas, where the women were mostly housewives, or it seemed that way. And the men were the ones that worked and provided for the families. It was a community that was really involved in the Methodist church and church activities and things going on with their kids. And another thing that cracked me up is, I don't know if you remember like our parents or grandparents or whatever reading those romance novels like back in the early 80s and stuff. That was a thing in the show. Like she would read these like romance novels, and it just made me laugh because it was like she lived through these novels and wished for like more exciting life, I guess is how you would put it.
Right. Yeah.
And okay. I'm trying to figure out where to start with this. I feel like everything came to a head. Okay. One of her friends was getting a divorce. And this is kind of like what seemed to kick everything off. And back then they're like, oh my God, such and such is getting a divorce. It just wasn't done as commonly as now, because I even watching them, I'm like, what's the big deal? Who cares? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a
It's
divorce.
just a divorce. But I mean, people really didn't do that. And the girl that got divorced, she has her boyfriend come to one of the volleyball games that's sponsored by the church, and the group of women that are like housewives that are friends, they're like chattering like, oh my God, look how fast she moved on and her boyfriend and blah, blah, blah. And Candy's like, well, how long is she supposed to wait? So, I mean, they were all judging her for one, for getting divorced, two, already having a boyfriend. And I think that's when everything kicked off, because the next thing you know, they're at like a skating rink with their kids, and they're asking her what this new boyfriend's like, and she wants to know all the details of them in bed, and she's like living through her, I guess, just wanting to know everything. And I feel like the thing with Candy is she was just really bored with her life. And to look at her life, you would think she had it made and it was perfect. But she was just bored, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, she just wanted how was that they referred to it in the show? Time shared together. Is that what it was?
I guess so, yeah.
Between her and the husband.
Yes. And whenever she did try to like make moves on her husband just to get him outside of that box, he'd be like, the show's getting ready to come on, honey. Let's watch the show. And she's like, oh
yeah,
God.
Yeah, it was like she was bored. She wanted some excitement and some special time.
Yeah, she was lacking in that area.
Yeah.
And she was the type that if she put her mind to it, she was going to do it. I don't know. Wouldn't you say? I don't know. Am I setting it right?
Well,
do you think? Okay.
Yes, because I mean, you might be getting to it, but the one part where she just goes to the dude and she's like, I want to have an affair. Okay.
I know. That was so ballsy of her. So what she's talking about is
she just put it out there.
Yeah. So they would have like volleyball nights with their church. This is a church activity, mind you. These are church people. She bumped into this guy, Alan Gore, who was not a stranger to her. I mean, him and his wife had a daughter who was friends with her daughter. So they knew each other. But anyway, I don't know. They bumped into each other, and she already has these thoughts of like, you know, wanting some excitement and whatever. And that's when she started looking at him in a different way. And then after the game, he's in the car getting ready to leave. And she just opens his passenger door and sits down. And he's looking at her like, what? And she's like, I find you attractive and I would like to have an affair. And he's just like, what? You know, like one of those things. But they end up discussing in detail like what this would look like. She hung up a big piece of paper.
Yeah, like pros and cons.
Yes, pros and cons. She had a pros and cons sheet. Like the pro is we would have excitement in our lives. The con is we could get caught. I can't remember what was on both sides, but I mean, she had rules like this day and this day, and we'll do it on your lunch at this sleazy motel. I'll bring lunch so you're not hungry. And
cash only.
Cash only. Do not call my house. Once there's feelings involved, it's over, because that's how people get caught. I remember that part. And he does agree to this. So,
but him at the same time, his wife is very emotional and very needy.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you're so right.
Yeah, like it almost comes across like she's a burden to him.
I'm so glad that you brought this up. And for anyone who hasn't watched this is based on a true story. But if you don't want any spoilers, now would be the time to go ahead and stop this and come back after you've watched the series so we don't spoil anything for you. But Rachel has a good point. I needed to talk about Alan's wife, Betty. Betty, it showed her as like a school teacher, and she had every kid in her class in detention because one of them did something wrong and they wouldn't confess to it. So she just punished everyone. And it shows her getting fired because of that.
Wasn't it that they egged her house? Wasn't that why she gave them detention?
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah. So because no one fessed up to it, she punished everyone. And the principal was like, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. And it shows her, you know, filling up her box and leaving. She gets fired. But she is just one of those.
Cat,
yeah.
That cat in the boot.
Oh my God.
that big oversized figurine.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, she is one of those people that she just seemed like she just wasn't happy no matter what she did. She wasn't happy, and she liked things done a certain way. She liked quiet. She liked peace. She liked to be left alone. She was strict. She was needy. She was all these things. And the reason why we say needy is because Alan's job required him leaving for work a few days here and there, whatever, to go out of town. And she would call the office, talk to his boss, tell him they should not be sending him anywhere. She would call his hotel room. She would think that someone was in there with them. I mean, she was a very insecure person. Very much. I'm surprised she even had kids at all, to be honest with you.
Well, I was surprised to find out, too, that she actually cheated on him.
I was surprised by that as well. I do wonder if that's true or not. I don't know. Because remember, everything's based on a true story. So I did do some research, which we'll go over after we discuss all of this. But he wasn't having an exciting sex life with Betty. So he agrees to get some strange from Candy. Meanwhile, they're having this affair. Everything's going well when he discovers that Betty's pregnant. And when Candy finds out and was like in the same room with Betty, here she is having an affair with Betty's husband and offers to throw Betty a baby shower. And this makes Betty really happy because Betty does not fit in the crowd. People don't talk to her. She's not popular. She's very like hermit type. And here
she doesn't really have any friends.
Yeah. And wouldn't you say Candy was probably one of the most like outgoing people?
Mm-hmm.
And here the most outgoing person is wanting to throw her a baby shower. And she's like, I have the best house to entertain. So let's do this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so just give you background on that. Now, Candy's husband, we already touched a little bit on him. He was not introverted or anything. He was just content being this married man / father who went to work, and he cooked dinner and played with the kids. And he seemed like a really wonderful husband, to be honest with you, I think.
Yeah, like a great family man.
Yeah, very supportive. He was just boring to her. I don't know. What do you want to talk about when it comes to this? I'm trying to paint the picture of people, you know?
I mean, really, they just seemed like everyday, ordinary people. Like, there wasn't anything special or, like, odd or anything that you could be like, oh, yeah, I could see that happening. They were just plain everyday people.
Yeah, and I highly recommend watching this because it goes back and forth in time, like telling you the story. I think it does a good job with that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take you to the day where everything changes because, well, you know what? I'm going to go back a little, rewind. Candy ends up having feelings for Alan. And she's like, we got to stop the affair. This is the last time. We're not doing it anymore. And he's like, what? Why? She's like, I find myself thinking about you and I have feelings for you. So we're going to have to call it off. That was the rule. Once we have feelings, we got to call it off. And he basically begged her not to. Like, oh, I need this. I need you. I need whatever. And so they continued a little bit longer. Okay. So now I'm going to forward a little bit. Okay. So the day of what happens is Betty gets killed. And this is the day that it happens and events that happen with it. Candy's daughter had Betty's daughter over for a sleepover the night before. And they have really a good time together, fun together. They're like best little friends. And Star Wars movie was coming out the next day, which is the day that we're talking about. And the little girl wanted to go with them. And Candy's telling her husband, like, I think we should take her. I just don't think she has fun when she's at home. The only fun she has is when she's over here, blah, blah, blah. And the husband agrees, yeah, she can go. So she tries to call Betty to ask, Candy tries to call Betty to ask if the daughter can stay the night again. And she goes, I know it's normally against the rules where they don't do 2 days in a row, but blah, blah, blah. And the way that Candy approaches this is kind of forward, kind of pushy, like you don't really have a choice. Like, I'm going to come over, I'm going to get her bathing suit because she has swim practice, and then she could stay another night, and then we'll drop her off the next day, and that's how it's going to happen. Didn't you take it that way?
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't like she was asking. It was like she was telling.
Yes. And she's like, what time can I stop over to get the swimsuit? And Betty's like, noon. And at this time, Betty's baby's born. The baby cries nonstop in this show. My God, this baby cries and cries and cries and cries.
It's like every time she turns around after she's fed the baby or put the baby down, the baby's crying again.
Yeah. And they don't address it in the show, but it's quite obvious that Betty is suffering from postpartum depression. Like, this kid's crying all the time. Mm-hmm. She's just depressed.
She feels alone.
She feels alone. Yeah. I mean, all kinds of things. So Candy uses this to her advantage by saying, I know the baby's a handful, so let me just go ahead and take her, you know, your daughter. We'll go to movies. We'll have fun. I'll bring her back next day, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of how that went. But instead of coming over at noon, the time Betty said was good for her, she stopped over earlier when it was good for her instead. During this time, the girls were at church, right? In a play?
Yeah. It was like a pageant or something.
Something's going on. But before that happened, she thought, I'll run over there real quick, do this, and then I'm going to run to Target, get a Father's Day card for my husband, and then come back and be in time for this play for her kid or whatever. So it just shows her soaking wet in her car, pulling into her house, changing clothes, throwing clothes in the wash, her toes cut, and you're like, what's going on? Later that night, after the movies, everything, Alan called Candy's house because he was trying to get a hold of Betty, and Betty's not answering the phone. He calls his neighbors. Can you hear that?
I hear.
Torby's trying to bust in again. I have the door locked, otherwise she'd get in here. Where was I? Oh, yeah. He's like begging people to go check on her because he hasn't heard from her in hours. She's not answering the phone. And we know that Betty's insecure and needy, and she would be answering the phone at some point.
Did you Did you notice too how that one neighbor, like he was like annoyed.
Yeah. You can tell they're
He's
not
like,
popular.
I can't do it right now. Yes.
Yeah. You could tell that that's
Maybe
just not a popular couple.
maybe it's because of that yellow truck that he drove.
I love that truck. He drove a Volkswagen truck. I hated that it was yellow, but I'm like, I would drive that. I would totally drive
It
that.
was so small for him.
Oh my God, it was, but
Funny.
it was, I don't know, it was different, right? 80s truck for sure. But he's begging people to go over and check on her. And they do, but no one's answering. And they said the lights are on, but her car wasn't in the driveway and la la la. He eventually has the neighbor go over again. And the neighbor is like, oh my God. I mean, he's not saying that, but he's like, oh my God. So he looks into the garage this time and sees that her car is in the garage. He sees that the lights are on and she has to be in there, but no one's answering. So Alan begs the neighbor to get in the house, however he's got to do it. It doesn't matter. Just get in there and see what's going on. And oh my gosh, did you notice like when the neighbor goes over there, like peeking in the garage again, about to go in, the other neighbor shows up with a gun. And he's like, oh no, Alan called me too. So it was like three of them, like three neighbors ended up going over there to go into their house and see what's happening with Betty. Okay, so the door was unlocked. They all enter in cautiously, mind you. And they found the baby screaming its head off. And one of the neighbors got the baby and took the baby to his wife to take care of while they continued to look for Betty. They said that the baby was crying so much for so long that its voice was like hoarse and diaper was extremely soiled. And that's all I remember about the baby.
Yeah, at first I was like, wait, is that blood on the baby or?
Right. As they continued to search, there was a utility room off from their living room where one of the guys opened the door, peeked in, shut it. And he was like, oh, this is not good. When one of the other guys looked again, as that's going on, Alan's calling his own house, and the other guy, one of the guys there, answered the phone. And they tell him things aren't good. The baby's okay. And they told him that Betty was shot. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And she was dead. So he calls Candy and tells Candy that Betty was shot. And Candy's like, okay, thinking everything's going to be okay. Wow, okay, she was shot. All right. But the thing is, this is where everything gets messed up and confusing. They tell it so well in the story. And police are questioning everyone that they were like friends with or were around. And then they knew that Candy was the last one to see her that day. So Candy was interviewed. Candy tells them everything was fine when I was there. I went there, got the bathing suit and peppermints. Then I took her daughter to swim and blah, blah, blah. And when she left there, she did resume her day as normal, which is odd considering. So they asked Alan, did you have an affair? Was there someone else? He denies it and says he had a one night stand, or she had a one night stand. I'm sorry. It was her, right? That he said.
Yeah.
And that was it. But he would end up calling them the next day and telling them the truth about the affair with Candy.
Well, remember the one neighbor, the woman who had recently got divorced? She basically moved in and started cooking and stepping in as like the wife role. And then she's like, telling him like, because with all these shows that I watch, they all. So then he starts really thinking about it, and he's like, I better call the police.
Yeah, and so he does, and he tells them about Candy. And you're right, that woman stepped in like she is married to him and she's been there forever. She's like, do you know how to change a diaper? And he's like, no. Do you know how to do this? No. And she stepped right in that role and was doing everything for him.
Oh, I love the part about the dishwasher when he put the dishwashing liquid in the dishwasher.
Yes. It was, yeah. When Candy was questioned, they noticed the cut on her toe and her feet were severely bruised. Her nails were all messed up, her fingernails. And they asked her about all these things. They asked her if she would be willing to have pictures of her feet and everything taken. She said yes, whatever she can do to help. They asked if she would do a polygraph. She said, of course. They asked all these things and she agreed to all of it. However, like she ends up getting an attorney and confesses to her attorney that she's the one that did it. And they also eventually say, like, hey, she wasn't shot. She was murdered with an axe. And whatever.
And she claims self-defense.
Yeah, Candy claims self-defense. And the crazy thing is you're watching it and that Betty was axed 41 times. I don't think that would be self-defense. I don't know. I'm not in that profession, but when the husband of Candy started suspecting Candy, like he found her shoes that were like cut up and in the trash can. And
yeah, because remember she heard that they found a footprint.
That's right. And she's cutting up the shoes that she wore. Yeah. He wakes up in the middle of the night and he grabs their axe and he is swinging the axe at this like tree stump 41 times, except for he couldn't even make it to 41. He was exhausted.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and if we didn't say the shoes that she was wearing were just flip-flops.
Oh, yes. Good point. They were easy to cut up. All of that. So, and it's funny too, because the police were like, this is going to go one of three ways. Person's going to confess to murder. There's going to be, I don't know what the other one was. And then there's self-defense. And they were even making a comment like, it would be crazy if someone tried to do self-defense in this case, swinging that axe 41 times. But that's exactly what she does in court. And she claims to have been like disassociating from herself during this. Like she was triggered by something that Betty said that she.
Oh, by the.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
She shushed
her, which brought her back to a memory when she was like 4 years old and really hurt. And her mom shushed her in the emergency room because she was crying and loud. Anyway, she says that triggered her and it was like an out of body experience. She didn't even know she was like swinging that many times, but she goes through the whole thing. She said Betty confronted her that she knew that her and Alan were having an affair. Alan told her and Candy denied it, but then said it was over. And she's like, you can't have him, blah, blah, blah. And that's when she grabbed the axe and tried to kill Candy with it. But Candy ends up getting the axe away. And that's where the self-defense thing comes in to play. Am I missing anything on that?
It was like the way they presented it was like first she just grabbed the axe as like an intimidation.
Yes.
And then it was, then she attacked her. Because it was weird because in between like grabbing the axe, then she would hear the baby cry and then she would like go tend to the baby. Or what was the one part she was like, can you get Christina's bathing suit off of the dryer while I go get a towel? It didn't make sense because she goes to the garage, she has this axe and she's like holding it like, don't mess with my man. And then she just sets it down and then she just walks away to go get a towel.
It was so weird. I know exactly what scene you're talking about. Yeah. Things just weren't adding up to me with it.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, in some way, the jury found her not guilty. And she walked out a free woman that day. I don't know. I recommended just watching the show. This was harder to explain than I thought. The whole series of events.
Jessica Biel really did such a good job like portraying. I mean, the whole thing was good. Everybody, all the actors. The lawyer was DA Barba from Law and Order SVU. Raul Asperaz, I can't say it last. I love that dude. But yeah, I mean, it was just there's a lot to it, but at the end you're just like, gosh, you cocky bitch. Like you don't even care.
No, and there's so much more to this. Like you would have to watch it to understand completely. Yeah, I mean, she even during court, she even says like she took another lover after Alan, and people were like, "What?" Yeah. And her husband like lost it at that point. Like he was wanting to work it out when he knew about Alan.
Well, and he said too, he was like, I take some responsibility for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I did look up some facts to see what was different from the show. And
so I saw at the end too where they ended up getting a divorce like 4 years later.
Yes, they do divorce.
And then Alan and that woman, they end up getting married.
Yes, they do. I got all those updates for you too. I wanted to make sure it all matched. So let me run down my little list here. A lot of it, the show stuck true to. Like Candy knew what she wanted and she did whatever it took to get it. She dreamt of being a full-time mom and wife and intended to marry a wealthy man. When she first met her husband, Pat, she found him to be introverted and not too attractive, but he was destined to be wealthy someday, so she gave it a shot. And according to Texas Monthly, Pat and Candy met while Pat was working as an electrical engineer at Texas Instruments, while Candy was the secretary there. Or was just a secretary. Anyway. They married, and by 1979, Pat was earning a good income at Texas Instruments. They had a son and a daughter, and they purchased their dream home. It appeared that Candy had it all, but she got bored. And then I went to Alan and Betty Gore. So Alan was not handsome. He was just average. Betty seemed to never be happy and suffered from postpartum depression after her daughter was born. And things only got worse with that when their second daughter was born, and their sex life was pretty much non-existent, despite the fact that they had kids. When it came to the affair, Candy and Alan's affair, during the weekly volleyball games, that's when she noticed Alan. So that was the same as in the show. She approached him, made a list of rules just as in the show, and their affair began on December 12th, 1978.
Right before Christmas.
Yeah. So
Merry Christmas.
she eventually confided in her friend about the affair. Oh, in the show, I forgot, in the show, she describes her lover as having the most beautiful penis that she has ever seen. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, the affair lost its spark in real life, and she was ready to take on a new lover, which is kind of different from the show because it almost made it appear in the show that Alan was the one canceling on her the last few weeks that they were supposed to meet up, and she didn't seem very happy about that. But anyway, in real life, it was kind of a mutual agreement to stop having the affair. Now, Alan and Betty's daughter, Alyssa, which I think it was like Valerie or something in the show. I think they changed the name. It's true, she wanted to stay another night with the Montgomery kids and see Star Wars at the theater. And
Christina? Was it Christina?
It was Christina. You're right. Her real name is Alyssa in real life. So Candy tried to call Betty about Alyssa staying another night, but she never answered the phone. So that's the difference too, where she answered the phone in the show. She did not answer the phone in real life. She ends up having errands to run. So she just decided to stop by Betty's house to ask. When she arrived, she was surprised that Betty had discovered the truth about the affair, and Candy tried to deny it until Betty presented cards and love letters that Candy had given Alan. So she was busted.
That could be where they bring in the card in the show where he finds the card. Remember?
You're right. Mm-hmm. In the show, Candy's husband finds the card.
Mm-hmm.
So Candy tried to tell Betty it was over, but Betty was not convinced. Now, under the discovery of Betty's body, Alan was on the business trip and attempted to call. Betty didn't answer, so that's the same. He had his neighbors check on her. That's the same. He called Candy, and that was the same. And Candy told him how Alyssa was staying another night. She saw Betty around 10 that morning, and everything seemed fine. When the neighbors did go into the house, they discovered the door unlocked and found the baby. The baby's name's Bethany. I don't think they ever said the baby's name in the show.
I don't think so.
Bethany was dehydrated and weighted down with a soiled diaper. They spotted Betty soaked in blood and face disfigured. She was barely identifiable. The community was frightened, and locksmiths were working overtime, and local gun dealers couldn't keep up with the demand. Everyone was scared, which I feel like they kind of showed the scared community in the show. Let's see here. There was no forced entry. Investigators were put off by Alan's subdued demeanor while questioning. He was a man of few words and he lacked emotions. So the facts are that the killer showered after killing Betty. There was a rubber sandal print left behind, just like in the show. Alan confessed to the affair. The police wanted to question Candy again, since she didn't mention the affair the first time, but she got a defense attorney, Don Crowder, before returning to the police station for more questioning. Now, despite her saying Betty was alive when she saw her last, the police had enough evidence to suggest otherwise and arrested Candy. During the trial and the verdict, Pat stood by Candy's side, so that's the same. Don Crowder broke every rule to defend his client, which they portrayed that in the show, which is awesome because if you remember, the judge kept putting him in contempt and giving him fines. Like he ended up with I don't even know how many days in jail and how much in fines.
It was at least at least $200 and at least 72 hours.
It was pretty great, wasn't it? I'm like, oh my gosh.
And at the end, they took him out in the handcuffs.
Yeah, I know. And he's like, yeah, because he won. So Candy testified a tale about Betty confronting her with the affair. They mentioned the whole thing, just like the show. Oh, what's interesting is it was Friday the 13th, the day that she killed Betty.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned in the show, like the newspaper was showing that The Shining was out in theaters. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
They had all this like boogeyman stuff, which they used that in court too. They were like,
yeah, remember the comment was made something about that Betty was reading the newspaper and that maybe she got the idea from that.
Yes.
Use the axe.
Mm-hmm. In a panic, Candy showered, fully clothed, trying to remove the blood and gore from her skin and clothing. She then rushed home and changed clothes, tossing the still bloodied outfit into her own washer, and she immediately returned to the church to finish the Bible school activities. When they left the courthouse after she was found not guilty, the courthouse, there was shouting of murderer. People were shouting murderer to her when they're leaving the courthouse. A handwritten letter written by Betty to her parents just days before her murder mentions her, quote, good friend Candy Montgomery, end quote. And Alan Gore said his wife never confronted him about the affair or gave any indication of knowing about it in the morning of his departure. This makes you think. Okay, now the good stuff. The aftermath. Kind of where the show ended, right? Okay. So Candy and Pat moved to Georgia and they later divorced, just like it said. Candy lives in Georgia under her maiden name, Wheeler. So it's Candy Wheeler. She works alongside her daughter, Jenny, as a mental health therapist to teens and adults suffering from depression. As of December 2010, Pat Montgomery, now known as James Montgomery, was employed with EMS Technologies Defense and Space Division in Georgia. Alan Gore remarried during the time between his wife's death and Candy's trial. He and his new wife, Elaine Williams, eventually divorced as well. He lost custody of his girls to his former in-laws and soon became estranged from them. Although Facebook suggests that Alan and his daughters may have reestablished a relationship. He currently lives in Maine with his wife, Lindy McLean. Alyssa Gore, now known as Lisa Harder, is married to a successful building contractor. They live in Newton, Kansas with their 2 sons. Bethany Gore, which was the baby, married in 2012 and became known as Mrs. Chad Mickey. They reside in Las Vegas, Nevada. She also quoted to the Daily Morning News in 2000, quote, I think she got away with it, end quote. Oh, I'm sorry, there's more to this quote. My family has a lot of anger and a lot of hatred toward her. Both Alyssa and Bethany were adopted by their maternal grandparents in 1988. Candy's attorney, Dan Crowder, it said in the show at the end that he went on to be governor or something. But the truth of it is that her attorney who won the trial, despite the facts and public opinion stacked against him, he actually committed suicide in 1999.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
It said that he ran for governor, right? But it didn't say if he won or not.
No, and I don't even know if that's true or not. I couldn't find anything other than that he committed suicide in 1999.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's it. That's what we have. That was Candy on Hulu, and it was amazing. And I'll watch it again, I'm sure. It's probably one of those where you notice more, like the next go around. I don't know. Anyways, we hope you like this mini series. If you did, let us know. We're going to sprinkle this in every once in a while if you like it. If you're craving more episodes, check out our Patreon. We put a bonus episode out every month. That will be in our show notes, the link. So you can check that out. And happy Friday. Well, happy Monday since you're listening to it on Monday. But that's all I have. Do you have anything else?
No.
All right.
That's it.
Cool. Well, we're going to go and wrap this up and we'll talk to you guys next week. Have a great week. Goodbye.
Bye.